It is Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We will be here with you from our homes for the next couple of hours, talking local, regional, and national sports on this fine Thursday afternoon, and excited to be doing so. Wade, how's your Thursday so far?
Man, Thursday is great. Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody. We are ripping, we are running, and looking forward to a good show on this gorgeous day.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about and a couple of great guests. In the second hour, we are going to be joined by Matt Brown of Extra Points. He takes on the business of college sports. It's been a while since we've talked to Matt, so I'm kind of interested to see what's on his radar right now, what's front and center for him. He's going to be with us audio only because he was actually attending a press conference this afternoon in the Chicago area with some news breaking up there. So breaking news coming here on Main Street Sports Today. Stick around for the second hour of that. In our next segment, it's Coach's Corner, as it always is on Thursdays, and we're going to visit with Liberty Creek softball coach KELSEY Cartwright. The Wolves are the defending Class 2A state softball champions. This is their third year that they are getting ready to embark on. So they won state championship as a second-year program last year. Excited to talk to her about how they pulled that off and what they've got in store for an encore here in Sumner County. So KELSEY Cartwright joining us in the next segment. We'll also be giving out our weekly high school awards. So look forward to that. We'll also be talking a little college hoops. There were some intriguing games last night, as there seem to have been quite often here of late, and not just in the SEC, by the way, but got some good stuff to get to when we get to basketball later in the show. Little Major League Baseball, it is spring training. We got some Titans / NFL combine / draft news. Vanderbilt's got a transfer for football. Going to touch on that a little bit. And just a lot. We're going to be going in a lot of different directions here in the next couple of hours, but it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So,
yeah, a lot of ground to cover.
Absolutely, a lot of ground to cover. It's also Throwback Thursday. We will be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association Executive Director Mark Reeves. We discussed with him a couple of weeks ago, the transfer rule that is kind of, it's not if, it's when some things get addressed along those lines. They have another legislative council meeting coming up next week, so we thought we would kind of revisit what went on at the last one with him and what we can look for going down the road as far as that goes. So we will have Mark on our Throwback Thursday segment at the top of the 3 o'clock hour, so be sure and check that out as well. A lot of fun. A lot of good stuff, a lot to get to. Let's go ahead and get started on it, Wade, with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, gang. Time for the Thursday rundown, and let's rewind it to Wednesday's scores, and we go to high school girls basketball action, where last night Clarksville Northwest defeats Kenwood 33-29. Henry County picks up a 45-35 win versus Dixon County. Clarksville takes care of Rossview. That is 48-44 in that final. Again, Clarksville topping Rossview last night. Kirkwood was a winner, 41-35 over Springfield. Boys basketball scores. There were a few last night, including Goodpasture, who turned back Lakeway Christian 71-44. It was Innsworth 53, Knoxville Catholic 56 for Innsworth, 53 for Knox Catholic. MBA was a 50-38 winner versus MUS.
We had some girls flag football taking place yesterday. Pearl Cone with a 20-14 win over Brentwood. Hillsborough defeated Brentwood as well, 15-6. Centennial with a 32-14 win over Martin Luther King. The rest of these were shutouts. A lot of defense. Pretty good amount of offense as well. Independence defeats Cane Ridge 44-0 and Hunters Lane 26-0. Nolensville defeats Maplewood 28-0 and defeats East Nashville 32-0. Page with a 33-0 win over Kip Nashville. The Patriots also defeated McGavock 20-0, and Summit with a 34-0 win over Hume Fogg and defeated Overton 38-0. In men's basketball action from Wednesday night, West Georgia with a 73-70 win over Austin P. Vanderbilt got that elusive SEC road win going to College Station, picking up an 86-84 win over Texas A&M. More on that later. Lipscomb defeated Central Arkansas 78-60. Belmont with a 74-65 win over Missouri State. In the HBCUAC championship opening round, Wilberforce defeated Fisk 69-63. In the Southern States Athletic Conference Championship opening round, UT Southern advances with an 86-79 win over Bruton Parker.
That brings us into today. Let's get you guys up to speed with your schedule for this evening. High school basketball action. Rossview is going to take on Clarksville in a boys contest beginning at 6 p.m. tonight. Kenwood will meet Dixon County at 6:30. 8 p.m. start time for Clarksville Northwest at Henry County. We don't have a start time listed for Kirkwood at Springfield, but Springfield alum Darian Hudson has already posted. He's going to be front and center for that one tonight. So buckle up, folks. Royalty will be in the house when that showdown gets underway. Doubleheader college basketball tonight. Morehead State's going to be at TSU. That game, those games get underway at 5 p.m. You can see it on ESPN+. 5:30 tonight, Union will take on Tribeca in Nashville. And again, a 5:30 start time. Women's college basketball, one game already in the books. UT Southern knocked off Bruton Parker. That was in the SSAC quarterfinals down in Montgomery. UTS winning that game this morning, 68-63. Firehawks into the semifinals tomorrow at 1 o'clock. HBCUAC championship quarterfinals. That's again down in Tuscaloosa. The Fisk ladies will take on Philander Smith out of Arkansas. That game gets underway at 4 p.m. 5:30 tonight on ESPN+. It'll be Lipscomb at Bellarmine. 6 p.m. on the SEC Network will be Tennessee at Kentucky. At 6 o'clock tonight on ESPN+, West Georgia traveling to Austin P. 6:30 start time for Texas A&M at Vanderbilt. That game will be on ESPN+. Also at 6:30, also on ESPN+, New Mexico State at MTSU, and also Southern Illinois at Belmont. Men's college basketball, UT Southern right back in action, taking on Dalton State tonight. The Firehawks taking on the number 1 seeded Roadrunners. That game gets underway again at 6:15 at the multiplex at Crampton Bowl down in Montgomery, Alabama. Final men's basketball action tonight. MTSU is going to be at New Mexico State at 8 o'clock. You can see it on ESPN+. And in NHL action tonight, the Jets will come to Nashville taking on the Preds at 7. You can see it on FanDuel Sports South.
Finally, we've got AU women's pro basketball tonight at Municipal Auditorium. It's a 5 o'clock tip-off between Team Crystal Bradford and Team Odyssey Sims, followed by a 7:30 matchup between Team Maddie Segrist and Team Ty Harris. Again, 5:30. 5 o'clock, 7:30. AU women's basketball at Municipal Auditorium. Get your butts in the seats, as Megan would say. That's going to do it for the rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. We were just talking about the Oscars earlier this week with our best bad movies, and the Oscar ceremony is scheduled for this weekend. Two-time Oscar winner Gene Hackman and his wife and dog all died at their New Mexico home yesterday. Hackman was 95 years old. No foul play is suspected in this loss, which is interesting. But again, Gene Hackman, his wife, Betsy Araqua, and his dog were found in their New Mexico home yesterday afternoon, found dead. Foul play is not suspected as a factor in these deaths at this time. However, exact cause of death has not been determined. This is an active and ongoing investigation by the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department. If you are a sports fan, and you wouldn't be listening to this show if you weren't, Hackman is known for his portrayal of Indiana high school basketball coach Norman Dale in the iconic movie Hoosiers. Less iconic, but equally, if not more entertaining, was his portrayal of Washington Federals coach Jimmy McGinty in the movie The Replacements, loosely based on the NFL strike replacements of the mid-'80s. So couple of really intriguing sports roles for Gene Hackman in a illustrious acting career.
Yeah, sad to see Gene go. 95 years old, man. He lived a full and very, very active life, full of zest, full of zeal, really, in all of his roles. And like you said, a couple iconic sports roles, which tie in perfectly with our conversation today. But, man, he was good in a lot of different capacities, retiring officially in 2004. But it feels like he's one of those actors that kind of has been a staple in Hollywood for so long, and it still felt like he was kind of in and around the industry, even though he had stepped away for quite a while. But kind of sad news and kind of shocking news that we kind of discovered today with the events unfolding.
Yeah, it really is shocking. I mean, it's just stunning. Again, you didn't realize he was 95 years old, probably, and just the fact that he's no longer with us is just really kind of. I've used the term earlier this week. It's just kind of jarring. Just he did so much. 5-time Oscar nominee, won it for his roles in The French Connection and in Unforgiven. But a lot of really memorable performances for him. The Quick and the Dead is another Western that he didn't really care for his character, but man, he really owned it. And just so many great performances for him on the screen. And he has passed away at the age of 95. And it'll be interesting, I think, to see Sunday how they memorialize him during that telecast of the Oscar Awards. Yeah,
he'll be front and center during the in memoriam. They'll reserve the final slide, it feels like, for Gene and for his roles. And you're right. In addition to those sports roles, man, I remember him from a lot of good ones, a lot of courtroom roles, which he played really to the T. He was great in The Firm with Tom Cruise, of course. He was also great, in my opinion, in Runaway Jury. Mississippi Burning was critically acclaimed as well. But then also, man, he had a wide range, and I really enjoyed him also. Enemy of the State was one of my all-time favorite movies, starring alongside Will Smith. Crimson Tide in the 90s. Shout out to the Alabama fans. And then also maybe his last great movie in 2001 with the Royal Tenenbaums. Man, this guy was electric anytime he stepped on the screen. This is a guy that lied about his age at age 16 to be able to enlist into the United States Marine Corps. And after his military career ends, he captivates Hollywood for the greater part of 40 years. What a fantastic career, man! He will be sorely missed,
no doubt. Crimson Tide was a classic. The interaction between him and Denzel Washington's character in that was just top notch, big time. And Mississippi Burning, if I'm scrolling through channels or whatever late at night and I come across it, I'll still watch that to this day. That was a great character that he played in that movie as well. So everything he did was good. And like you said, he will be sorely missed. Gene Hackman did at the age of 95. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, it's time for Coach's Corner. We will visit with KELSEY Cartwright, third-year softball coach at Liberty Creek, as the Wolves set out in defense of their Class 2A state championship when softball season starts next week. Stick around when we visit with her. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. And before we get into Coach's Corner with Liberty Creek softball coach KELSEY Cartwright, Wade?
Yeah, hey, I forgot, Mo. You know, we were talking about Gene and we were talking about the role, obviously, in Hoosiers that really a lot of folks knew him from, and that kind of ties into the sports realm that we're talking today. If you go to that movie, there's a scene late where Ollie makes 2 underhanded free throws, and you wouldn't know it, but there is a 10-year-old boy in the crowd as an extra in that movie, a friend of ours by the name of Scott Combs, who's an Indiana diehard, and he was in that movie as an extra, kind of befitting for a guy that would go on to start Austin Peay in Missouri, and then now coach James Madison just clinching a share of the Sun Belt the other day, by the way, for Coach Combs. But he's an extra in the movie, so he says he's got a basketball signed by a lot of the cast, so Hoosiers is ingrained in Scott Combs' lore.
That's really cool. That's good. And Scott's such a good dude. That's great that he was able to be a part, however small, in something like that. So that's a nice little nugget, Mr. Neely. Appreciate you sharing it with us. Coach's Corner, as we typically do on Thursdays. We are pleased to have with us Liberty Creek softball coach KELSEY Cartwright. The Wolves.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, thank you, Coach. The Wolves, in their second season of competition, won the Class 2A state championship. KELSEY, what do you do for an encore?
You know, it's really about taking every day and what it's worth and just trying to get better that day and continue to make the choice to be good teammates, and the results really will speak for themselves. So while we want to be competitive and be back where we were last year, it starts with a focus on every day, not a day that's months away. So that's kind of the approach we're taking this year.
At the same time, you got to feel like that bullseye is going to be on your back. If y'all aren't discussing it, other folks are, you know, we're playing the defending state champs.
Right. And it's one of those things that I'm so fortunate that I was able to play for a great program at Good Pasture. As an 8th grader, I got to come in and play with a very historic senior class: Daniel Peroni, Tony Hutchison, Jamie Walmsley, Jocelyn. All of them were going to go play big time ball in college. And we had a lot of success due to them and our coaching staff, where we won 4 times in a row. So as a player, I got to really get to understand what that feels like, to be able to still play the game, even though everybody's coming for you at the same time, because it is different. It's easier to win that first time when nobody knows who you are. And it's different once people do know who you are. So trying to slowly let the girls know how that's going to be a little different this year at the same time, for sure.
Don't let Kelsey fool you while she mentions all those other individuals that went on and played big time softball. Kelsey was Gatorade Player of the Year out of Good Pasture and signed with Auburn originally. So it's not like she was just kind of watching great players. She was a pretty great one herself. How do you pass that experience and that knowledge along to your kids on a day-to-day basis, Coach?
You know, God's blessed me so much to be able to come back at the high school level, because even when I was in high school, I knew in my heart I wanted to be a high school coach and teacher. I remember telling my coaches that's what I wanted to do, and here I am. I just love being able to give back to the game and give back to the girls. And as I tell them, try to learn things a little easier and not the hard way like I did a lot of times. And while I still try to do that, the game has grown and changed so much with the amount of exposure that softball has, especially at the college level. It's one of those things that it's super exciting for this generation of softball players because of the opportunities they have. But I definitely have some wisdom that I'm trying to give them from somebody whose, college career is further and further in the rearview mirror.
Coach, as you kind of make that transition and as this team kind of makes that transition, we catch you just before the start of the season. Break it down for us. What does this, in your mind right now, what does this year's team look like? We obviously maybe have an idea of what you would like it to look like, but what do you kind of see when you kind of unfold your roster at the moment?
So I'm super fortunate. I only graduated one player last year, so we have a lot of returners back. And I was very privileged that Dr. Holt allowed me to begin the program here at Liberty Creek. But starting a program is way different than year 3. Now the girls know my expectations. They know each other. So we have some good momentum on what our expectations are organically versus me every day trying to teach them that. So I'm really fortunate a lot of that little stuff's taking care of itself. But our words this year as a team is to be selfless teammates and do whatever it takes to get the job done and to be fearless competitors. So every day at practice or at games, we're highlighting those 2 aspects of our culture and our team. And we're really just trying to dive into that. And we feel like if we're able to do that, then, like I said, results are going to take care of themselves.
I would imagine, too, like you said, that momentum of last year kind of has those natural built-in expectations. And it's easy to kind of be selfless when it feels like when you've seen the results and they kind of played out exactly the way you mentioned last year.
Right. But what I will say, we definitely had some times where we got a good taste of humble pie last year. We played a very tough schedule, especially out of state. We played some of the top teams in Alabama and some of the top teams in Kentucky. And it's one of those moments where we were looking for that to see how they would rebound and grow, because that's how you get better. And it paid off. We're still looking for those opportunities this year. And inevitably, you learn more from the losses than you do the wins. So we're not scared of trying to maintain perfection. What we're trying to do is learn with every mistake and not be beat the same way twice.
Kelsey Cartwright, softball coach at Liberty Creek, joining us here on Coach's Corner. Coach, when you, as you said, you're establishing a program, this is y'all's 3rd year that you're getting ready to go into next week. To have the success that you've had so early and putting yourself on that that radar on that level, and while you're not chasing the success necessarily as much as the process, what does that mean to a program in its early days to be in that position so quickly, do you think?
It's definitely a privilege. All the glory goes to God and everything that I've been blessed with, and I've been blessed to be here. But it's one of those things that I'm not going to be here forever. And I want to try to build a foundation that, my players' kids can come back to and be proud to be a part of that. And also, too, I want us to be known by not just how we are on the field, but how we are off the field. So character is really big for us. And we talk about that softball is something we do. It's not who we are. And we really try to invest in both sides of that. So it's been a very challenging part of my coaching career to start a program and be intentional with those things, because they just don't happen on their own. So we're trying to continuously put effort in the right places and know that the rest of it will take care of itself.
Still the career home run leader at Good Pasture with 44. Kelsey, who's your big stick that you are that's out in front for you guys offensively as you head into the season?
I'm really fortunate. We don't have any gaping holes in our lineup, which I think makes us a little different than a traditional high school lineup. We're all tough outs. Our top power producers from last year would be our 3-hole Kinsley Gregory and our 4-hole Maddie Floyd. And yes, they do produce a lot of offense for us, but they're not the only ones. So I think we have a really balanced offensive attack, not even in our starting lineup, but kids coming off the bench. So I really look forward to seeing those two in the 3 and 4-hole continue their success. But I know that they're backed up and the next person's ready to pick up the bat and make some pop themselves.
I was chatting via DM on X or Twitter with friend of the show and softball analyst Marin Angus Combs. Talk to me about Kayla West.
Kayla West is a very, very talented pitcher. She was a little bit delayed in her high school career due to an injury, so she actually wasn't able to pitch at all her freshman year. So her sophomore year last year, as anybody that can check a stat line can say that it was pretty impeccable, because even though it was her sophomore year, really on the field it was her freshman year. She is able to command the ball with a lot of great movement, and she doesn't miss often, almost so much that I have to make her throw balls because she is so incredibly accurate. And that's just her physical set. Her mental competitive side is what continues to set her apart. She wants the ball in the big moments. So I would argue that Kayla is one of the best pitchers in the state by far. And I also want to brag on the rest of our pitching staff, because I have so many other pitchers. We don't have to burn out anybody throughout the season, which allows us, when it comes down to the end, to really ride somebody who's fresh and not on fumes. So the pitching staff has been able to support each other really well as two.
Yeah, coaches,
who are some of those other arms for you, Coach?
Well, from last year returning, we have Tulip Heinrich, who's a junior, Presley Brenniger, who's a junior, Avery Sweet, who's a junior. This year we have 2 new arms to add to that arsenal. We have Kinsley Belcher, who will be a sophomore, and Kaylee Jones, who will be a freshman. So we're really able to operate like a college pitching staff, if I'm being honest, and not the traditional high school staff of just trying to hope you have one good arm and hope that they last.
So how do you get time for all of those talented arms in the circle, Coach?
So we're really intentional that we're not a one-way a type of attack when it comes to pitching. We like to throw multiple pitchers at people to see who's the best matchup. So we're really fortunate in that, and that we'll throw 2 different people against the same team, and we'll say, hey, who had more success here? Or if somebody's off that day, because none of us are perfect, it's okay. Somebody else can come stand in get in that circle and help you with that.
Coach, 30-plus wins last year, yeah, and kind of while we're talking about it, a lot of goose eggs tossed up. Was that a function of that cumulative staff that you're kind of talking about, or was that one player in particular kind of getting it done?
No. Last year, most of our innings were split by Tulip Heinrich and Kaylor West in our varsity matches. But then again, come state tournament time, our game to get into state, we had to get beat twice. We lost that first game, but we had Avery Sweet come in, and she absolutely shut down Westview. They didn't score any more runs. So it really just is one of those things that anybody can step up at any moment. But we definitely are relying on our pitching staff, even though we have some bright spots in it. There's no doubt.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it too there. What was it like kind of battling through not just Westview, but also obviously saw Westmoreland several times, playing the same team multiple times and trying to attack them a different way, and ultimately, obviously, coming out on the better end of that more often than not?
Yes, and like I said, that's one of the huge benefits of having a large pitching staff like we do. In regular season, they saw Kaylor West one time, they saw Tulip one time. And then we kind of got to take that into the district tournament on, okay, who's a better matchup here? And as far as Westview goes, we were in a position where we had to get beat twice. So, and they only had one pitcher that threw for them, and she's a phenomenal athlete. But that would have been her third game in 24 hours. So we were able to have a little bit more of a strategy on who we wanted to throw that first game. And thankfully, it, like as you can tell, it paid off.
Coach, what kind of comfort is that, because you've been around softball long enough to know that, every time you open that bullpen door, you don't know what's coming. It sounds like you do. And that's got to be a great benefit to you.
It is really nice. And it's great for the girls too. Softball is a very grueling season, fast and furious, a lot of games really quickly. And, not all of us are going to be in our A game every day. So that's different between, softball and baseball, where you are limited on how much you can throw a week. Softball, there's no limit. So it's really great for our pitching staff to learn that it's not all on their shoulders, but when they get the ball, to go all out and know that your teammate has your back if you need them.
Who do y'all start off with this week?
So our home opener is going to be at home versus Wilson Central, and then we go to Harpeth, and then we go to Gulf Shores tournament the very next week.
That'll be fun. Hopefully you'll get some good weather while you're down there and be able to enjoy. So y'all are on spring break already?
Not yet. So this week we're doing our scrimmages. And then, like I said, next week's our opening week. And then our spring break is earlier as well. Okay. So, we'll be hitting it soon. And also, too, with the basketball season extending later, I've got 3 currently on the basketball team, Kaylor West being one of them, that are playing for the region champion or first round of region. So, we've been preparing. And thanks to that staff and other players, we're able to continue to prepare for when they come back.
So Kaylor's a Western Kentucky commit, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, with her being a multi-sport athlete like that, how is she able to, get her work in with both? I mean, will she be ready to throw when basketball season is over with, do you think?
I definitely think she'll be ready to throw. She's a committed athlete that works on her own. Same thing with my other basketball players. They get their reps in on their own until it's time for softball season. And once again, we're so blessed that we have a pitching staff. As soon as Kaylor's available, it's not like she's expected to come in and throw every single game. She'll have some time to kind of get her feet up under her, make sure that stamina is ready, and keep her at her prime.
While we're talking multi-sport athletes, Coach, do you have anybody getting ready to pull off the triple? Do we have anybody on the girls' soccer team that won it in the fall? You could go softball, soccer, softball if you play your cards right there.
So we do have a freshman soccer player who is one of our shortstop alternates that we're training up right now, Lucy, and she was not there the original first year that soccer won last year, but she was at the state tournament this year. With the soccer team. So, here at Liberty Creek, we want our athletes to enjoy as many sports as they want, which is more common, I feel like, when I was younger, and now kids are trying to specialize earlier. So we love multi-sport athletes, and we want to empower them to play whatever sports that they would like.
Mm-hmm. And Coach, I would imagine being a Class 2A program as you are, just from a size standpoint, you kind of need to be able to share athletes.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things, as I said, when I was younger, it was a lot more common. And all the coaches here all agree that we want it to really go back to that part and let kids play multiple sports. It makes them better athletes. It prevents burnout. And you're only in high school once. And those are some of your most cherished moments. So we're just happy to be a part of that and let them experience as much as we can.
KELSEY Cartwright, Liberty Creek softball coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner. Coach, as Wade was mentioning, girls soccer, softball, you guys are kind of building a little dynasty up there in Sumner County in a hurry. What is the common thread athletically for you all that's allowing y'all to have so much success so quickly, do you think?
So I will say that our principal, Dr. Holt, was really specific in his vision for athletics department. And our mascot is wolves, a pack of wolves, and our mantra is one pack. And when he went through the hiring process, he was very specific that he wanted coaches that wanted to work well together, wanted to share athletes, and wanted to be a strong athletic department, not a strong athletic team. So it's really kudos to him for bringing in like-minded coaches that have that same approach. And because of that, we're able to flourish, like you said, pretty quickly because we're all pulling in the same direction. So very fortunate for his vision for our school and our athletics program because it's paid off.
Sounds like some principals need to be picking his brain. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon. Wish y'all best of luck this week down at Gulf Shores and beyond. And, get through Lambert's for me while you're down there.
Oh, it's a must stop. Even when I was in high school and we went down there, you already know you got to get some rolls thrown.
There you go. Hey, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Hey, before we dip out of this segment here, we need to give out some awards. First of all, our Custom Stone Handlers Team of the Week award, our In to Win Life Team of the Week, goes to the Santa Fe girls basketball team. They picked up a couple of victories last week, defeating East Hickman in a non-district matchup and then finishing out the regular season with a win over Hampshire. So the Lady Wildcats out at Santa Fe, our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Besides the military, there's no greater team building function than athletics. Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game. Congratulations to the Lady Wildcats. And our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week is Braden Leach, Summit Senior 157-pound wrestler who won his second straight Class AA state championship this past weekend at the Ag Expo in Franklin. 4 tournament matches, 3 pins all in the first period, and 1 tech fall. That ain't bad for the UT Chattanooga signee, who again was following up on his state championship from his junior season when he won it at 150. So congratulations to Summit's Braden Leach and to the Santa Fe girls basketball team, our Custom Stone Handlers Team of the Week and our TOA of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little hoops. Stick around.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our next segment, we'll be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with TSSAA Executive Director Mark Reeves. Stick around for that. Right now, talking a little basketball. And as we have talked about Vanderbilt basketball here over the last few weeks, the knock on the Commodores under first-year coach Mark Byington was that they needed to beat somebody good on the road. Well, is Texas A&M okay? Because Vanderbilt went out to College Station last night and got an 86-84 win over the Aggies that may not necessarily have been as close as the final score. I didn't get to see a lot of it, but I was trying to keep up with the score throughout the second half, and that gap was wider than that. A&M kind of came back at them in a rush late trying to salvage that one, but the Commodores held them off. And I don't know if A&M is ranked at this moment, but they have been.
Yeah, they're 12th.
Oh, okay, so they're ranked.
Yeah, they were 7th before Tennessee got them, and now Vanderbilt's got them as well. So Texas A&M wants no part of the volunteer state as of late.
Yeah. Again, huge win for the Commodores. That might have been the box on their resume that needed checking for them to get on the good side of the bubble for the NCAA tournament.
Sure feels like it. And Joe Lunardi basically said before the game last night that if Vanderbilt wins this game, that's probably going to be enough to get them in. And now if you're Vanderbilt, somewhat playing with house money, obviously you don't want to just go dropping every game remaining on the schedule and bow out early in the tournament. But in a wild situation, Texas A&M's now 9-6 in the league. Vanderbilt and Texas A&M still has at Florida, Auburn, and LSU to play. So, I mean, there's a weird scenario where Vanderbilt could maybe lap these guys at some point. That's how crazy this league has been this season. And that is a monstrous win for Vanderbilt. Kind of exactly what the doctor ordered, because we had just talked about their schedule has been home-driven in terms of the quality wins. It was nice to see them get a big win, fresh off a victory versus Ole Miss, and now taking care of Texas A&M. Certainly would like to snag one or two down the road. Now you're talking about improving your seeding at this point more than anything, which is crazy to think about.
Hey, Wade, slow your roll there just a little bit, because Vanderbilt finishes up against a Missouri team that they lost to in Como, who's coming off a big win, against Arkansas, who just beat Texas, and against Georgia, at Georgia, who just beat Florida in Athens. So I think Vanderbilt's okay, but this schedule, all of a sudden, I mean, I felt like it kind of turned for him coming down the stretch, but here of late, maybe not.
Well, the good news is 2 of those are at home, right? And that's where Vanderbilt does all their damage, is at home. And Saturday versus Missouri will be a fun one on West End, and then you get Arkansas rolling into town next week as well. If you can somehow take one of those two, you feel really, really confident, certainly about the tournament, probably avoiding any play-in discussion at that point. And then you'll just see what happens with Georgia, who is kind of surging right now. We still got a lot of ball between now and March 8th when those two teams square off. So Vanderbilt, yeah, massive victory, took care of business, and as you said, was not as close as the final score kind of indicated.
Kentucky got more than they bargained for when they went to Oklahoma last night, I think. Finally held on and got out with the win, and I didn't realize that they were playing with a kid who had transferred to them from Oklahoma, but he went in there with a chip on his shoulder, apparently. But turned out to be a big win for number 17 Kentucky, 83-82, because, again, the Sooners, who Oklahoma was one of the last three teams in the country unbeaten. They've really kind of struggled in SEC play, but they got up on their hind legs last night, seems like.
Yeah, Kentucky with a little magic on the road, scoring, with 6 seconds left in the game and having to fend off a Fears layup attempt right at the end. That's how close this game was. Oklahoma nearly reclaimed victory right there at the death. But Kentucky, man, a team that has just kind of been reeling over the last 2 or 3 weeks outside of a win versus Tennessee. They kind of batten down the hatches, and that's a game you don't necessarily feel great that you won it, but you feel pretty decent in the sense you didn't lose it. That was a decent win. They couldn't afford any more. They can't afford any more bad losses. They've had a bevy of them here.
Yeah, Otega Owe, 28 points, including Kentucky's last 18. That's the kid that transferred from Oklahoma, and they gave him hell throughout, apparently. Meanwhile, Brandon Garrison, a transfer from Oklahoma State, had the block on Fears' shot at the end. So the Sooner State doing Kentucky some favors last night, both from Norman and from Stillwater, apparently.
Yeah, and massive dub for Kentucky, and now they get ready. The schedule gets a little easier. Oh, just kidding. They got Auburn coming into town at Rupp on Saturday, so that will be electric at noon on ABC.
Ooh.
That's what I'm saying. That was a must-win for Kentucky in the sense you could not afford to lose that one, staring Auburn in your face.
Yeah, you needed to get that one before Auburn comes to town. It's tough that that's a noon game. Goodness gracious. Is that noon Eastern or noon Central? Not that it really matters.
And noon our time. You get to roll out of bed and see Auburn and Kentucky rolling right to work, baby.
Goodness gracious. Mentioned Arkansas again surging. They get Texas in overtime at Fayetteville as they continue to try to put together an NCAA resume themselves.
Yep, 2 ships in the night, it felt like last night. It was a good win for Arkansas, and it feels like that was the bubble bursting for Texas, barring something crazy down the stretch. And talking with a good Texas fan, a friend of mine last night, the wagons are circling for Rodney Terry, and not necessarily in a good way. He's, quote, said, "I'm okay with this loss if it means we can kickstart a national search." And this is on a group text with a Vanderbilt friend as well. So on one hand, you got Vanderbilt reaping the benefits of what could be out there if you make a coaching change. Meanwhile, Texas not only sees their bubble burst, but yeah, you got to wonder about what's next for them at the coaching position.
Yeah, and you got to kind of wonder if Rodney Terry's not feeling it a little bit. Following friend of the show, Eric C. Henry on Twitter, I think Terry's had a tech in each of the last 2 games. The only 2 he's had all year. So, again, I don't know if he's feeling it or what. 86-81, the final, as Arkansas gets that win. But, again, as we like to say, Trey Johnson walked in the Longhorns locker room afterward and said, "I didn't lose. Y'all lost." Johnson scored 39 points, breaking the Texas freshman single-game record previously set by Kevin Durant of 37.
Yeah, this kid continues to ball, and that's what Eric had told us. He said, who knows what the tale will be for this season, but if you could somehow keep that kid on campus for next year, you have a tremendous building block going forward, whether it's Terry or somebody else coming in as the new head coach.
You wonder, though, is he one and done?
I mean, pretty weak draft class, a lot of folks are saying. So maybe the waters will certainly be tested, it feels like. But if you could somehow keep him, you got to feel really good about your chances going forward.
Yeah, again, pending who is on the bench for Texas next year, whether it's Rodney Terry or somebody else. And there's going to be a few jobs open. Obviously Indiana, among others. So that'll be interesting to see how they attack that situation there. But Texas fallen to 16-12 with that loss overall, and obviously not in real good shape in the SEC standings. 5-10 in SEC play. So
yeah, it hadn't been good.
Yeah. Shifting our attention a bit north, Michigan State with a buzzer beater to knock off Maryland last night, as they continue to surge in the Big Ten. The Spartans now number one in that conference all by themselves with that 58-55 win over Maryland after former Belmont standout Jacoby Gillespie missed a shot that would have put the Terrapins ahead. Michigan State comes back down, knocks down a 3 to win it just before the buzzer.
Yeah, huge win for Sparty on the road. Maryland starting to gain a lot of momentum amongst the experts as a potential sneaky good team for the NCAA tournament. Everything's kind of there for Maryland for the taking. We had just talked about them earlier in the week on our program. And, Kendrick Perkins, they've got Derek Queen, who we talked about, obviously, with Joe. They call him Black Baby Jokic for a reason. I mean, this kid can ball. And he did as best he could. But, man, that is a massive win for Sparty, who with a loss there, Maryland is suddenly right in the thick of things. It's now a 3-team race with Michigan, Michigan State, and Maryland. But now all of a sudden Maryland falls back to earth just a little bit. And that further solidifies Michigan State. That is a massive road win for them as they try and nail down the Big Ten regular season title.
Mark's got that buzzer beater queued up. Roll them.
They gotta go. Gillespie for 3. Call or no. Holloman looks the clock.
Oh, front rim.
Oh my goodness. Holloman from half court to win it on the road.
Ouch. That's a tough way to lose one. And, I'm always I'm not real sure sometimes how to take those game winners when it's a tie ball game. I mean, worst case scenario, you were going to go to overtime, but you were able to win it right there at the end of regulation. But that's a huge shot regardless to win it, like you said, on the road for Michigan State.
Yeah, massive dub for them. And if you're Maryland, man, that's just heartbreak city, right? Yeah, you're thinking, okay, worst case, we're going to overtime. And Kevin Willard said after the game, a little frustrated maybe with himself and or his team, says we maybe should have done a better job of holding to kind of ensure a real last shot opportunity. I love this too. This is right up Mo's alley here. He said Holman hadn't made a shot all night, so as soon as he released it, I knew that thing was going in. Yeah. So Kevin Willard kind of calling it like it is there. He finishes the night with just 9 points, but none bigger than the ones right at the end.
And I've got a buddy who has a son that goes to Michigan State, and he sent me a mashup video. Apparently, Michigan State beat Maryland on a three-pointer in the 2010 NCAAs. And there's a video out there of the two of those, one over top of the other one. It's pretty wild. But, yeah, this isn't the first time that Michigan State has broken Maryland's heart on a buzzer beater. So
that was back in the olden. That was lightning strike twice. That's back in the olden days, back when Maryland was in the ACC, partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Ancient times, but yeah, bringing back some old memories. And right when the calendar starts to turn to March, that's going to make your skin crawl a little bit if you're a Terps fan today.
Kind of Izzo time too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Women's basketball tonight. We mentioned Tennessee goes to Kentucky, a top 15 battle there. The Lady Vols ranked number 11, Kentucky 15th. they've got Georgia Amore, who was a terror for Virginia Tech last year. She comes to Kentucky with first-year coach Kenny Brooks, and they've got Kentucky playing really well right now. Again, Tennessee coming in number 11 in the country, and another chance for Tennessee to pick up a road win. That would be their 5th straight if they get it tonight, having beaten Auburn, Ole Miss, Alabama, and winning at Florida over the weekend. So really would kind of be surging into the postseason. Again, they go to Kentucky tonight, and then they close out the regular season Sunday against visiting Georgia before the SEC tournament gets going next week over at Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, this should be a fun one tonight. Tennessee favored by 5.5, so Vegas thinks Tennessee should be able to take care of business tonight. But this will be a primetime matchup. Like you said, not just SEC implications, but kind of some seeding at large implications coming down the stretch here. This will be a fantastic showdown.
Yeah, Tennessee trying to stay on that top 4 seed line and host the opening 2 games. So this is big for them. And Kentucky trying to get to that top 4 seed line. So yeah, this, like you said, a lot of implications here. Vanderbilt trying to snap a 2-game skid when Texas A&M comes to town tonight, as the Aggies try to get back for the men from last night, I guess. But yeah, Vanderbilt dropped last week's matchup out at Oklahoma and obviously fell to South Carolina on Sunday. So trying to get right before they go to Missouri on Sunday to close out the regular season. By the way, Missouri coach Robin Pingleton announced her resignation effective at the end of the year yesterday. So not sure what the situation is at Missouri that would have necessarily brought that about. Maybe it's got something to do with them being 13-16 overall and 2-12 in SEC play.
It probably doesn't help things, right?
Yeah. She's been there for a while, though. So maybe it's just time to do something different, both for her and for the Tigers. So we'll see how that goes. Again, A&M at Vanderbilt tonight, Tennessee at Kentucky tonight, highlighting the Southeastern Conference schedule for the women. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it's time for Throwback Thursday, as we throw it back to a recent conversation we had with TSSAA Executive Director Mark Reeves. Stick around for that one as we talk about the transfer rule and if/when some changes get made to that, because they're coming. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
To have with us the executive director of the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, Mark Reeves. Coach Reeves, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well, man. Yep. It's good. It's Friday. The weekend is coming now. We're both going to be working, so it doesn't change a whole lot, but at least it's the weekend. So,
right.
Been a busy week for you. Have you recovered?
No, I'm actually in my bonus room at my house right now because I hadn't been at my house during working hours for our landfill, and my trash is piling up. So, you know how that goes. You know, you can't get home when things are open. So it's been some long hours, and of course I'm the dad of a wrestler, so you don't have any Saturdays available. So yeah, it's been quite the show.
Region tournament this weekend, huh?
Yeah, I got a region tournament to go to. Excited about that. They're looking forward to it.
Okay, well, good luck to Connor. You guys had had a special called legislative council meeting on Tuesday.
That's correct.
Did you all accomplish what you expected to accomplish during that meeting?
I thought we had some great outcomes. To be quite honest with you, the reason why we had a special called meeting is we wanted to be able to move forward on proposals that were on the books as opposed to waiting until April, because 3 of those proposals dealt with the potential for changing transfer rules, and the council did not adopt any one of those 3. They rejected those as written, but what came out of that meeting is what we were really hoping to come out of the meeting was very good discussion and dialogue on where we can expand our transfer rules for situations that fit within the mission and fundamental principles that the organization is really founded on. And that's what we were charged to do. We talked a lot about reasons or ways in which kids should be made eligible that are in alignment with the Educational Freedom Act, so that we're not standing in the way of a student that wishes to take advantage of scholarship that they may now have access to. What does that look like? But then also, having some guardrails so that, if something crazy were to happen and a kid is at a public school, gets in trouble and gets sent to alternative school, but is able to transfer or take advantage of a voucher and go to independent school, that kid would still be ineligible. And so putting some guardrails on some things like that is what we were really charged to do. Let's take care of legitimate academic reasons, legitimate social, emotional, mental health, all the things that make an awful lot of sense in this day and age, where we're all working in the best interest of students. So we got to work immediately on that, and we will be working on some language to bring back to that group. They asked that we have another special call meeting, if we could, prior to that April meeting, to go ahead and get that, try to get that done. So we thought it was a great meeting.
Is this particularly pressing, Mark, from the standpoint that, you mentioned vouchers. Vouchers are obviously coming. Is it particularly pressing to get the transfer rule amended ahead of any other action that might take place outside of the TSSAA in that regard?
Well, I mean, you've got, I think everybody knows that there's a bill that's been introduced in the House, um, that would, if passed, would allow for a one-time transfer. And I really do believe that bill was introduced for a lot of the same reasons. While we had our discussion the other day, let's find pathways for kids to make choices that are in their best interest. But there is somewhat of a sense of urgency because we would love to be able to accomplish that without having a state law that's enacted, because it does get really tricky in terms of other things that could make a student ineligible that we feel like should still exist. For example, if a student is ineligible for because they were illegally recruited by another school, or they're under disciplinary action, like the example I just gave you, or they don't meet the academic rule. There are literally there's a lot of language about things that could still make kids ineligible that I think most, if not all, well, not all, but most would agree are fundamental and certainly in alignment with what our three overarching principles are, and that's keep athletics in a proper perspective, making sure that academic mission of schools is at the forefront, and maintaining a competitive balance or level playing field. There's got to be guardrails if you're going to accomplish those three things.
Mark, as we kind of talk about this issue, and then the topic of NIL kind of slowly infiltrates into the high school ranks, and I guess I'm just curious, and maybe there is no easy answer for you guys, but as a whole, would you kind of describe the methodology you guys approach? Are y'all trying to be super proactive, or is it kind of more a, hey, let's deal with things kind of case by case and just evaluate in regards to kind of issuing new legislature for you guys as a body?
Well, we want to be proactive, and if you're talking, if we talk specifically about NIL, I think we were one of the states. We weren't certainly one of the first or second, but we were early adopters of changes to our amateur rule to make sure that students could benefit on their name, image, and likeness. But more importantly, we wanted to get those boundaries set so that it was very clear that they could not benefit as a result of their affiliation with the school. So our member schools don't want any part of that. We said this in the meeting the other day. I think we occupy a very sacred space, and it's getting squeezed. That sacred space is education-based athletics, and on the other side, you've got collegiate sports and professional sports where the money's real big, and NIL doesn't mean the same thing in the thing at the college space of what we're talking about. And then on the other side, you've got youth and club sports, AAU world, and I'm not throwing darts at those organizations, but their missions are very different than what ours are. And so, like specifically when you talk about NIL, Wade, I made this point at the legislative council meeting as well. NIL in the collegiate space, that means I get this much money to play for this school. And yes, they might get other things in return, or they may be expected to show up in a commercial or sell a jersey, but they're getting paid to play, and that's what NIL is. When you talk about NIL that's approved in the high school space, that's not the case. There's nothing in our rules that say a kid can get paid or compensated to come to a school because of a transfer situation. Another reason why we would hope that we would be able to expand our transfer rules while retaining those guardrails.
I'm just always fascinated, and I think you guys do a great job of kind of navigating, whether it's NIL, whether it's vouchers, et cetera, kind of navigating a lot of murky waters with some legal challenges while still trying to be kind of proactive. And so that was kind of the basis of my question is I feel like you guys do about as well of a job as you can, it seems like.
Well, it's certainly more challenging probably now than it ever has been. And, it's not just in Tennessee, that's all over the country. This is the topic of national discussion. You have a lot of similar discussions that are going on around us. I just got a text from a cousin of my wife who's a superintendent in Kentucky, and the a bill was introduced in Kentucky, yesterday or day before for one-time transfer. So there's a lot of these same stories that are being told in different places, and every state's a little bit different, but we are really all kind of looking at the same issues and approaching them somewhat in a similar way, but there are differences as well.
Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Mark, is part of the dynamic the fact that that there is a faction out there, I guess, that want high school athletics to mimic, to look like collegiate athletics, and as you mentioned a second ago, that's not the case. I mean, the missions are different, but it feels like there are a number of people from the outside looking in at high school athletics and want it to look like college athletics in terms of NIL, in terms of transfers and that kind of thing. Are you kind of fighting against that to some degree?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a fight because it's not, it's not confrontational, but there are different philosophies that are out there, and you can certainly understand if I'm a casual college football fan, or I'm following what I see, and some people love the excitement that's produced to see where's this kid going to go and how much money is he going to get offered, and there's that's the entertainment value with that. So, and then the other side of that is that same person might look at us and see us as a very similar type of regulatory agency and come to the conclusion, well, why not? How could they restrict? How could they? But again, they're not necessarily familiar with what the mission is. Our organization is a organization of schools. It's not an organization of the general public. It's an organization of schools who came together nearly 100 years ago, be 100 years ago this April, to agree upon a common set of rules. And those rules aren't 100 years old. They have evolved dramatically over the course of 100 years as education has changed and as the world has changed. And we're evolving, and I think the Legislative Council meeting was a great example of that. There's evolution that's happening with our transfer rules and with our schools based on the nature and the climate of what we see in education today. And we just hope that we'll be able to be able to control that moving forward. And we may not, the legislature, that the law may pass. And if it does, then, we'll obviously abide by it, and we'll figure out the best way to support our schools, with that new reality.
It feels like it would be more advantageous for the TSSAA as an organization. Wade spoke to being proactive, and I'm not preaching to the choir, preaching to you all, I don't think, but it feels like it would be easier if you all are out front of the state legislature. And I don't mean to make it sound confrontational. It just feels like if you all have a little bit better knowledge of the nuances that you're dealing with and that kind of thing than a lot of folks there, and you can kind of craft this thing rather than trying to work within whatever confines or whatever parameters come out of whatever it is that they do.
Yeah, and that's the advantage. Whatever role that you're in, if it's what you do every day, then you're able to maybe see around more corners than others. And one of the things with the one-time transfer, if that's where it stopped, then hey, maybe that's not maybe that's not a bad thing. But the model of what we've seen is it doesn't stop there. If there's a one-time transfer for any reason, it becomes very difficult to defend your rationale for not allowing a second, third, or fourth. And that's what we've seen, in other entities. You saw that at the NCAA level, the state of Florida. There are no transfer rules in the state of Florida, and it all started with opening that door, where now, if you're in the state of Florida, I love my friends in Florida. I've got 3 or 4 dear friends in that office that I've grown to know. But we just kind of chuckle if you're eligible in Florida, and let's just say you're in football playoffs and you get beat in the quarterfinals in Florida, you're eligible wherever you show up the next day. But you got to wait 6 days. So you get beat in the quarterfinals, then no problem. I'll transfer over here and I can play for somebody else in the semis. That's literally the rule. So that's what, because we deal with it every day. We talk with folks in that space every day. We know what's the more likely outcome if you open that door. And I understand that other people can't see that perspective. But that's what we want to. I don't think anybody wants that. There are a lot of folks that are in favor. We have 40% of our members who are in favor of a one-time transfer. So we have a significant number of our membership school people that would like to see that. But very few of those, I would say, are in favor of that wild, wild west that I just described. Yeah. Our fear is if you open that door to the one time, that's inevitable. That's where you're going to end up. So we just love to stay, current, but also keep the guardrails on.
Yeah, I mean, you would like for that one-time transfer to take place between school years, I would think. I mean, would that be part of the guardrails as opposed to a mid-year transfer maybe? Or
yeah, absolutely. And our conversations with the legislature have been great. And I think they would certainly be open to that too. If it does drop, if that were to happen, I think those guardrails are I think that's what they're looking at as a potential amendment. But that's the version that's in there now. I mean, who knows what could happen? That could be amended. There could be others who are not necessarily, authoring the one that's out there right now that says, you know what, we shouldn't restrict anybody anytime. But no, I think those who are pushing that in the legislature don't want the Wild West. I know they don't. They don't want the Wild West either. Our fear is, though, what we've seen, maybe they haven't seen, and that is the inevitable outcome.
Yeah, I think anybody that I was getting ready to ask you about Florida, actually, and
it's always Florida.
I think anybody that's seen that, I think that is the ultimate. No, we don't want to get there. I don't think. I don't know how they got there, and I mean, I don't have obviously the kind of insight into that you would, but it's crazy to think that somebody could be at one place one week and someplace else the next week. But at the same time, I've seen it happen here as well with, a bona fide change of residence and that kind of thing. So I guess it can happen, but you certainly want to try to limit that.
Yeah, you do. And you mentioned bona fide change of residence. That's probably the most common transfer that where we see students who are eligible immediately, because they are. That's one of it's kind of when you look at it and you look at our bylaws, you got a set of rules that align with what the fundamental principles are or have been deemed as, quote, acceptable. And then you've got another set over here that are unacceptable. All the ones that I just mentioned. I've been recruited up under disciplinary action, academic, all this. But they're unlimited. For those that are acceptable, they're unlimited. You can transfer 8 times if you have 8 different changes of residence. And could that be manipulated? Do people manipulate that? Do people secure a false address that doesn't get checked out? We absolutely have. We know that happens. When we find out that happens, when it comes to us, we discipline schools. But is that happening? Absolutely. And there's always going to be some manipulation, but again, those are guardrails. And if you just take all of them away, then you got Florida. So
don't be Florida.
We don't want to be Florida. I don't think anybody wants to be Florida.
Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the TSSAA, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Mark, in addition to the transfer rule, you guys were also discussing the residence rule. There's only a handful of schools that actually board in Tennessee. I guess St. Andrews, Swanee, Webb School, Baylor, McCallie, and who else?
King's Academy, Grace Christian out of Knoxville. Did you? I think that was. Did you name 4? If you did, then
Yeah,
I think we
I named 4. Okay, so there's
so those are
6.
the 6.
And it's tough, I guess, to have to make a rule for 6 schools, but at the same time, they do things a little differently, obviously.
Well, I mean, it's if you're a boarding school, it's very different, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. It's an amazing environment. I've visited all 6 of those schools, met with their headmasters this fall as this discussion has evolved, and there's been discussion about amending the residence rule, and so I feel like a much deeper appreciation for what goes on. Many of which have had this have been in existence for long periods of time. St. Andrews, King's Academy, we're going back 100 years. College Baylor, rich traditions, all these schools. But I think what the council, what the membership has seen, those who compete against those schools have felt like that over the last few years that the exception to the residence rule, in other words, the exception that some students would get if they move to that school that they wouldn't have in other schools if they were to move into their area, is one that has grown that has grown tremendously. That being said, the council has talked about this for 3 or 4 years, and they acknowledge the fact that this is different. And they don't want to disrupt what's happening at boarding schools in terms of them being able to take on international population and et cetera. But what came out of that meeting was, and has come out of a number of meetings, they just want this rule to be the same for everybody. And where that lands, we're not quite sure, but that was one of the things that we were charged with, was to bring back some possible ways in which we can make that rule the same for everybody while minimizing impact on students who may choose to attend. In other words, is there a way to do that without making them ineligible at the varsity level, particularly at these schools where there might not be a junior varsity program. So if all of a sudden now you got these kids who are ineligible, but there's no JV for them to participate in, we've taken away opportunities, and we don't want to do that. So is there a different way to go about making that the same for everybody? And that's man, it's been challenging, but we feel like we'll be able to get through that.
Hey, Mark, real quick, I want to put you on the spot. You mentioned celebrating 100 years for you guys, which obviously is a remarkable achievement. Any insight on maybe what is going to be coming from you guys to celebrate that milestone?
Well, we got a couple things up our sleeve that I'll keep under my hat right now. I will say this: I mean, we're not going to have a big banquet or a big event, anything like that. I think we're going to use this time to not just celebrate our history, but also celebrate the history of the member schools that we have, and give our schools the opportunity and some platforms maybe that they haven't had before to tell their stories. So we're really excited about some things that we've got in the works, and I think you'll notice some things here as we get a little closer to April, when that 100-year anniversary is actually here.
Mark, you guys have sanctioned, and we're branching out a little bit from what we initially wanted to talk to you about, but you've sanctioned girls' flag across the state. Is there any kind of a postseason planned at this point for them beyond, Williamson County's tournament, Metro's tournament, Montgomery County's? Is there anything more than that at this point, or how is that coming along?
Yeah, so we're helping coordinate a culminating event that will be hosted. And I apologize, I don't have the date on that, but I believe it's in May, early May, and we are working on putting together kind of a qualifying piece for that, and it's probably going to be more at the local level. In other words, we got all those schools that are doing it, 16 different districts. How do they get there? Probably a district champion. I'm not exactly sure. Emily Crowell is the master planner on all that. She's got it all worked out. So I'm butchering her plans right now because I'm not exactly sure what the latest conversation is on that and how they'll qualify. But she's got that figured out. But we're really excited about that, man. That's going to be a lot of fun, and have had a ton of really good feedback from our schools, and we had a number of schools that participated in the fall. That was one thing. As an emerging sport, not officially sanctioned, but it's recognized as emerging. They had flexibility to either play a fall season or a spring season, and some chose to play in the fall. So there's been some great feedback come from that. And I'll say this, I'll give another shout out to Emily. Emily just was selected to serve on the first National Federation of State High School Associations Flag Football Rules Committee. So the NFHS has never had a set of standardized rules like they do with every other sport. So they called together, and she was selected as the Section 3, the Southeastern State Representative, to go to Indianapolis here about 3 weeks ago to sit down and put pen to paper and actually put a rule book together. So that was a really neat experience for her, and tremendous honor for her and really the organization.
Sounds like you got a guest for us here in the next little bit. So.
Hey, she'd be a great one. She could give you a lot more insight than I could, about the inner workings and how that's going and where she's really seeing a lot of the growth, different parts of the state. So yeah, she'd be fantastic.
Sounds good. Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the TSSAA, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Mark, really appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, kind of working through where the transfer rule and to a lesser degree the residence rule stand with the Legislative Council, and we'll be following up on that. And again, good luck to Connor this weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Really appreciate it, guys. Just thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
sir.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. Take care. We'll see you.
All right.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And an update. Mark's son Connor finished fourth at 138 pounds in the Class AA state wrestling tournament this past weekend. So proud papa there, and congratulations to Connor. We now have with us audio only, Matt Brown of Extra Points, talking a little college sports biz, and it's audio only because Matt had a event to attend this afternoon. Matt, thanks for taking some time with us. Tell us where you've been and what's going on.
Sure. Thanks for having me, fellas. I was driving out to DeKalb today. I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. Northern Illinois had their introductory press conference to announce that they are joining the Horizon League in everything except for football, which is, of course, moving to the Mountain West Conference for the 2026 season. So this was a chance to hear from the university president, athletic director, and Horizon League commissioner and staff to better understand why on earth NIU is doing this, given that on the surface, it appears to not make a whole lot of sense. Can't say I saw any mountains on my drive from Chicago out here. But once you kind of peel back the onion a little bit, I actually think not only does it make sense, I think it's actually a pretty smart move on NIU's part.
Elaborate.
Sure. So the big reason, the big thing here that I think is a trend that could potentially continue elsewhere in college athletics is separating your football conference membership from the rest of where you want to be for your Olympic sports. By playing in the Mountain West, are NIU fans in Northern Illinois and Southern Wisconsin going to be able to drive to any away games? No, they're 2 time zones away. It's a time zone away, but that's only 6 trips. Northern Illinois gets not only hundreds of thousands of dollars more a year from television rights, they get to play on Saturday and on Friday, whereas with the MAC, you had a lot of conference games in November on Tuesday and Wednesday when they're playing in front of 1,000 people and sell 9 tickets. Then you save over $500,000 a year in travel moving from the MAC to the Horizon League, which will be more of a bus league for NIU and gets them a chance to play multiple times a year in Wisconsin, where many of their alumni and places where they're recruiting live. You know, NIU is only about 50 miles away from the state line. The last thing, I didn't really appreciate this until I got into the weeds. The Horizon's about as good of a basketball league as the MAC. MAC this is not Antonio Gates' MAC anymore. The league's been really in decline for the last 10, 12 years. They're both single bid leagues. And I understand that this is a thing that seems confusing, but it's going to save the school a lot of money that can then be turned back to revenue sharing for the athletes.
And as long as Doug Gottlieb is at Wisconsin Green Bay, you've got 2 wins a year.
That's exactly right. I know he's very angry that America's pointing out that they have like 4 wins. I like NIU's chances against the Phoenix whenever those games are set up.
Hey, yeah. Well, that's great. I didn't realize that was going on when we got you set up to come on with us today.
Same.
But when that was announced that they were going to the Mountain West, that was a question that Wade and I had. What are they going to do for everything else? Because I mean, you can't really see them staying in the MAC. You can't really see the MAC keeping them in everything else. I mean, do you feel like they would have been able to stay in the MAC, or did they pretty much have to leave?
They had to leave. That's what the bylaw, the MAC conference bylaws state, that if you have to have a football team, and that football team has to play in this conference. They're negotiating right now about potentially keeping 2 of their Olympic programs in the MAC, specifically wrestling and women's gymnastics, because those sports are not sponsored by the Horizon League, and There's some confidence that NIU will be able to work that out. But for men's and women's basketball, baseball, everything else, and this is the case most places. If you move football, they're generally not going to let you keep everything else in one place. So they talked to the Missouri Valley, they talked to the Ohio Valley Conference, they talked to a couple other leagues. Felt the Horizon made the most sense for them.
And from a travel standpoint, it sounds like that's exactly the case.
Yeah, they're not massive savings here, but you don't have to go to Buffalo, you don't have to go to UMass, and there's more opponents that are either traveling you can get to by bus, or because they're based in major metropolitan areas, they're very cheap flights. The number that they gave us, and I'll make some phone calls when I get back to my office to double check it, but it's a minimum $500,000 a year just in travel savings across the athletic department budget. And if you're Alabama, that's nothing. You spend that on Chick-fil-A. But if you're a low major or a team in a single bid conference in the revenue sharing era, $500,000 is still a lot of money.
Right.
Matt, I'm also curious from a competitive standpoint, what does NIU feel? How do they feel coming in to the Horizon? Do they feel as if they're going to be instantly kind of the top dog in a lot of sports?
They are definitely very confident in their ability to be competitive in many Olympic sports, but the big exception right now is men's basketball. And I know this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm sure people locally are curious about. NIU men's basketball is terrible. Ken Palm, sub 300 level team, haven't been an NCAA tournament team in years. And I think if this year's squad, they're I believe the worst team in the MAC, I think they would probably be the worst or second worst team in the Horizon this year. And part of the condition for them being admitted was NIU had to come and present a plan saying, here's how we're going to increase our budget. Here's where we're spending money. Here's how we plan to become highly competitive in the next 2 or 3 years. So everyone involved is optimistic that the Huskies will get better in basketball and at least help their net rating improve. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of soccer and tennis and volleyball, NIU doing very well. And then a difficult year or two of transition on the basketball side.
What did you glean from the Horizon League side of things? What are their anticipation levels for NIU coming in? Somewhat of a household brand in a loose regard.
That's exactly it, and that's why they're over the moon. Their thinking is if NIU does well in football, and moving into what the Mountain West is going to look like in 2 years, I don't see any reason why NIU can't be competitive for a conference championship in that league. This is the team that beat Notre Dame this year, after all, and was pretty decent this season. The Horizon looks at that as nothing but a positive, because the more NIU is on national television for football, the more they're going to talk about the Horizon League for everything else. And while the Horizon League is a good mid-major basketball league, it's a single bid league. I hear about it a little bit more just because of my neck of the woods. Oakland, won a tournament game last year. They've had teams win games before, but it's a mid-major league. So the hope is, all right, there's a school with a little bit more money, a little bit more national appeal, can get us on television a little bit more. They might stink the first year, but we're confident that they're going to be able to get going again and hopefully be a top top 4 squad in the league moving forward.
Oakland won a tournament game last year. Yeah, that tournament game was against Kentucky, by the way. But yeah,
that's right. People forget
that. Green Bay, Indiana, Fort Wayne, Cleveland State, Robert Morris, Detroit Mercy, Northern Kentucky, Wright State, IU Indianapolis, former IUPUI. That's the team that we were just talking about with the bus mishap over the weekend.
Yeah.
Youngstown State, Oakland, and Milwaukee are your Horizon League members. So just in terms of name recognition, as you said, Northern Illinois really kind of raises that level of name recognition, because there's not a whole lot there otherwise. Maybe in Oakland, like you said, that just won an NCAA tournament game, Youngstown State. But yeah, other than in that immediate area, a lot of folks aren't going to be real familiar with the Horizon League's members. I had to look that up myself. But
sure.
So that's like you said, that's kind of the payoff for the league.
Yeah, that's very much what they're hoping for. The other big advantage, NIU is not in Chicago, but NIU is not far from Chicago. And Chicago is an important market, not just because a whole lot of people live here and a whole lot of talented athletes in many different sports are here. So, even schools in the South will come and recruit this area. But it's important because it's also a city that exports a lot of college students. A lot of folks here that live in the western suburbs and the northern suburbs of Chicago end up leaving the state. And so if you're a school like Cleveland State or Youngstown State or Detroit Mercy that's struggling with enrollment, you're excited about getting a chance to get your athletic department, to get your university president, to get your development team into Chicagoland a couple of times a year for every sport. So then you can go post up at some high schools in Naperville and try to recruit engineering students or everybody else. So they definitely want the Huskies to be good at sports. But being in this area with a program that people have heard of makes this very exciting for the Horizon League.
Matt Brown of Extra Points joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Matt, this move with Northern Illinois is hardly the only thing going on. The Western Athletic Conference and the Big West are kind of dealing with some things right now. I guess kind of walk us through what you know to this point regarding that.
Sure. I published something this morning on Extra Points about that. Tomorrow, the university presidents of the Big West are going to convene and they're going to vote on whether they should invite Utah Valley University and Cal Baptist. And that is relevant if you're a hardcore college basketball fan. Utah Valley's won 20 games. They're probably the favorite to win the WAC this year. Them are Grand Canyon. But with that move, that knocks down the number of schools in the WAC to 5. And I can tell you that every single one of those other schools has been on the phone with other conference commissioners for the last several weeks, because I'm not breaking any news when I talk about the Big West interest here. So I know this is a league that has come back from the dead several times, but it is very difficult for me to see a way forward for the Western Athletic Conference beyond next year. We could have every single school being gone, I think, in a matter of weeks.
Wow. That's just stunning to think. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, it just happened with the Pac 10, 12, whatever they were a couple of years ago. I mean, it's an ever shifting landscape, but at the same time, the thought of a conference just ceasing to exist is just kind of jarring.
Yeah, the conferences are very hard to kill, right? This league, almost died when it left the FBS ranks after everybody joined the Mountain West. And then they called up a bunch of Division II schools and some schools kind of nationally without a home, and were able to make things work for a little while, and until it didn't. And so, it does happen. We don't have a Southwest Conference anymore. We don't have a border conference anymore, but it is unusual. First time, I think, since the Southwest Conference that we've had a league completely cease to exist. And when that happens, it will mean one more new at-large bid for the NCAA tournament and for every other NCAA tournament where the WAC sends a team.
Matt, I want to ask you too, while we're talking kind of uncertainty, and I got to ask just so I can say this sentence out loud. What is going on at New Orleans, and what can you tell us about Master P as the new president of basketball operations at that school?
It's insane, isn't it? It's so funny because I was talking with a couple of industry sources that I really trust like 3 days ago about how all of us think that New Orleans is not long for the Division I world. Their athletic director left a little while ago to take an associate AD job at Memphis. The university tried to get a football team going to help boost enrollment, and that fell apart. The school has been in financial and enrollment decline really for a long time, but especially post Katrina, when the school very, very nearly left Division I to begin with. So you already have this program kind of teetering on the edge. And then you have, their top 4 basketball players suspended as part of this nationwide investigation into gambling, which has tied up a couple of low performing, low major basketball programs. Because if you want to do point shaving, you don't do it at Tennessee. You do it at Tennessee at Tennessee Tech, or you do it at New Orleans, or you do it at Eastern Illinois, or some tiny program, and you just bet a little bit of money and take the advantage. And then you bring in Master P, which to me I think makes no sense, and that's a move that you do when you're desperate and you're trying to get people to talk about something other than the fact that your basketball program might be involved in federal indictments, the kind of thing that people go to jail over. This is nothing about this situation makes me think that the privateers are building towards anything really sustainable and strong right now in the Southland. And to be fair, I don't think they're the only school in Division I that's in this situation. They're just the ones that hired Master P.
You posted on Bluesky yesterday, calling your shot now. They won't be a D1 university in 3 years.
Yep, I think that's right. I think it is more likely that they end up in the Gulf South, or go to Division II, or potentially get out of athletics entirely, than it is that they build towards a team that can win 16 basketball games a year. That school is facing a lot of other problems that have nothing to do with basketball. And when that happens, the last thing in the world that you want is multiple basketball players potentially involved in capital C crimes.
Columbia native and Gulf South Conference Commissioner Matt Wilson says, "Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby." But it sounds like we know who a future guest is going to be for sure. Matt Brown of Extra Points joining us here on Main Street Sports today.
I'm sure you can clean them up. They got a great football field at City Park that, with a little bit of spit and polish, you could turn into a nice D2 field. They're not in a good place right now.
You said it. I mean, I don't think anybody has ever thought Master P and college athletics administrator.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I really don't think anybody actually knows what kind of person will make an effective college basketball general manager or like president. Because you have some people that are looking at that and you think, I want a guy that's been a scout or a former coach who knows tape and knows ball and has connections to European and American professional basketball. You could go that way. You have some people that are going the Woj way, where I want somebody who can be a big fundraiser and who's connected everywhere. And maybe that's kind of where UNO is trying to go here. And then you have a lot of people that are trying to bring in attorneys, or people who are agents, or people that have a statistical background and are just gonna quant everybody to death. And in a couple of years, I think we'll have enough data to know which way makes the most sense. This is just a very different way, and it doesn't strike me as something that you would do if you're in a position of strength. Just like you don't hire Doug Gottlieb to be your basketball coach if you're in a position of strength.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned Woj. We talked on our Wild and Wacky segment yesterday about his auctioning off credentials and phones and that kind of thing to try to make money for St. Bonaventure's collective. What was your reaction to that?
I laughed when I first saw it. My second thought would be, no, this is no disrespect to Woj in any way, but I think if you're the kind of person that thinks, I want to buy the cell phone that Woj used to break the news that Tristan Thompson is going to re-sign with the Cleveland Cavaliers, like if you want to pay to buy that, you need to be on a federal watch list. Like there's some kind of sports collectible that it is difficult for me to understand why that has major value. But if you're somebody, look, if you just want to find a way to funnel more money to the Bonnies, God bless you, man. I hope you enjoy your bricked iPhone.
Hey, well, I said, what if I just need a new phone, Matt? I mean, we can unlock that thing, and maybe it was the phone that we put out the news about Rudy, and the NBA going into lockdown because of COVID from touching all the microphones. But if I need an iPhone, I mean, an iPhone's an iPhone.
I guess, but listen, I wouldn't want the Rudy COVID phone. Even just spiritually, it's still got some germs on it or something.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you gotta send that to Apple headquarters to get disinfected there first. I want to give him credit. I think that's a very creative idea, And in a world right now where everybody from our Division II brothers and sisters to low majors to the Tennessees of the world, everybody is trying to find ways to make more money. And if there's 20 people out there who want to buy a Woj bat phone, I will make fun of them, but God bless them, and good for Woj for figuring something out. I'm sure there's something else creative that can be hawked just about everywhere.
No doubt it's creative. I'll be interested to see how well it works. But real quick, Matt, before we let you go, talk to us about the Last Chance U lawsuit and the former East Mississippi Community College players that are bringing that. What shot do they have?
I have to be totally honest with you here, gentlemen. There are so many lawsuits flying around college athletics right now about eligibility, about name, image, and likeness, about the what jurisdiction the NCAA has. I have to admit, I really am not familiar with this case. I'm sure that the folks that were involved in that television production probably didn't dot every I and cross every T, but you probably know more about it than I do.
Nah, well, that's your homework assignment. Get up to speed on that. When we get you back on, you can give us your thoughts on that. But Matt Brown, you can find him on Twitter or on X or on Bluesky at Matt Brown EP. Great follow. Does great work with that newsletter, Extra Points, if you are interested in the business of college sports. Matt, we appreciate you taking some time with us.
Oh, of course. Thanks for being flexible, fellas. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. Matt. We'll catch up. Let's take our final break of the day. Let's come back here on Main Street Sports Today, the Throwback Thursday edition. We'll be right back.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
I just want to tell you, Mark, you forced that last break on us and it about killed me. I took a drink of water. It went down the wrong way. And I was just hoping I could get myself back before we came back for the final segment of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Hoping I can live through this last 7 minutes. But out of the NFL Combine comes news. Abdul Carter, who wasn't going to work out because of a shoulder situation, now has a foot situation as well. He's being told that surgery isn't advisable, but, tread at your own peril, I guess. Tests revealed that Carter has a stress reaction in his right foot. Surgery was initially not ruled out. Further scans on Carter's foot point to surgery not being advisable, according to Adam Schefter. Another draft analyst, Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports, says that folks are not worried at all about Carter's injury. It's a foot. He's a football player, particularly an edge rusher. I don't know. It would give me reason to think twice, but I don't have all of the medical background that some of those other folks have.
Yeah, and if you're the Titans, I mean, you're sitting here thinking, really, this is of all the years we get the number one draft pick, there is no clear consensus number one overall pick, and then maybe you think you might be going in a defensive direction, and all of a sudden now there's a little medical question. The Titans don't get the number one pick when Wimby's out there. They get the number one pick, in one of these. They got to draft Zach Reese-Sachet, right? You can just kind of see what happens. That's kind of where we're at right now, and you're just hoping for the best.
Michael Olowokandi.
Correct. Yeah. We don't get Cooper Flagg. We got to settle for somebody else. So, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. And we talked yesterday on the show. There's so much information and misinformation coming out of the combine as we get ready for the draft. And, it will ultimately come down to whether it's the Titans or any franchise, what do they personally collectively, I guess, think about this medical situation. And if it's not that big of a factor, I don't know that it changes his grade very much, if any. We saw in the college football playoff, can battle through injury and has no problems putting his body on the line. So that if it's an issue of heart, I don't think that's certainly in question at all.
I think the question just becomes, how big a nightmare is it if you bring this guy in and then it is an issue after you've committed the number one draft pick to him overall? I mean, so it's just because it's not an issue now doesn't mean it won't be. But good news for the Commodores, who have gone heavy on the offensive line in the transfer portal this offseason, picked up a commitment from 3-star transfer from South Dakota. And it's amazing to me that we're grading transfers now. But Bryce Henderson, 6'8", 325-pound, second-team All-Missouri Valley Conference offensive tackle, is headed to the Music City.
Hey, 6'8", 325 pounds. That alone will get your attention. But then you throw in the fact this is a guy from coming from South Dakota. Ain't a lot going on. It's kind of like recruiting kids from Iowa, right? They ain't got much else going on except playing football. And so you're going to get a hard-nosed guy who's going to come in and seemingly do well. This seems like a sneaky good pickup for the Doors here.
Well, and basically it looks like they have recruited – I don't know if they've recruited a starting offensive line or not, but they've recruited a starting line. They've got Jordan White from Liberty at center. They've got another tackle coming in from Oklahoma State, Isaiah Glass. Guard Gunnar Givens from Virginia Tech. I guess he figured if you can't beat them, join them after that season opener back in the fall. And then a swing guy, guard tackle Sterling. I don't know if this is Porcher or Porche from Texas Tech. And none of them is less than a 3-star. So.
Two schools of thought, especially on the offensive line. You either got to have just a gritty group that's played together and got a lot of snaps together, or you go out and just try and piece together the best possible class. We just had Matt Brown on. You go to NCAA and you sort by overall rating is what Vanderbilt seemingly is doing here. That can be an effective strategy. And it'll be interesting to see how it pays off because they certainly have some aspirations this year.
They really do. I mean, obviously, you've got Diego Pavia back, and you want to try to keep him as clean as possible. And the best way to do that is get some guys in front of him. So hopefully they are or have addressed that. Henderson is a graduate transfer, so even though the portal isn't necessarily open, it's open for him. So he will get here in June, and we'll have the summer to work with the Commodores. So should be a lot of fun there. His former offensive line coach, Jeff Nady, is already at Vanderbilt, by the way. So that helps. That's going to do it for the Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We will be here, and we hope to see you then. Have a great day.